Hi everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and I wanted to talk to you about the Vandenborre Tarot. Vandenborre Tarot, it's also called Flemish Tarot or Bacchus Tarot. It is authentic reproduction in full color of Cartes de Suisse tarot deck, complete with 22 major arcana and 56 minor arcana cards. First published in the 18th century by Vandenborre, card maker at Brussels. So it's also a Flemish tarot, right? The original cards were woodblock printed and stencil colored. Reproduction complete with booklet. Ta-da! And this is the 1983 edition published by US Games System, printed in Belgium. So I was lucky enough to get this tarot shrink wrapped from 8.com.pl. It's a Polish tarot shop, and I know that they sell also on Amazon on eBay.com. You can find the listings there if you live outside Poland. But if you're in Poland, you can check their shop. And what's interesting about this tarot, I found it quite fascinating how they explained in the little white book and separated the major arcana cards, and I wanted to share that with you because I thought this is really very cool. So just to show you the backs, as tradition has it, this deck doesn't have rounded corners. That's how cards used to look traditionally, with sharp corners. And here I just show you the style of it. So it's very it's great paper. It's protected, but it feels a little bit like just paper. But I think it will last for a long time because it feels really good in the hands. Beautiful style if you like traditional decks. So these are the court cards, and then of course it's a pip style deck. So here are the wands, and then we have cups. So beautiful cups. Then we have swords. And then we have coins. So these are the minor arcana and the pip cards. Style-wise, this deck reminds me a lot of tarot Jacques Viville, especially when it comes to the... Sorry, I'm just looking. There's a lot of cards, especially when it comes to, the style of the star card or the devil, which is very similar to this one. Also the Fool looks similar, the Temperance looks very similar, and it's a bit different to the other Tarot de Marseille depictions of this card. But let's just start taking a look at how the cards are separated here in the little white book. So Magician, it's very interesting because it stands aside. It doesn't belong to the three extra groups. And I was fascinated. That's what got me into reading about this, because, I don't always read the little white books. Maybe I should, because this one was really interesting. And the Magician has a very bad reputation, and as a divinatory meaning, this card actually is has a very different meaning to Rider-Waite-Smith. Magician, standing up and down with hand up, hand down, willing things to come to fruition, having all the talents on the table, and so on and so forth. This Magician, says in the triumphs he plays a precise role as king of the masquerade. So there is a theory in Tarot de Marseille that the major arcana depict a procession of different figures during various celebrations and festivities, like for example Saturnalias. So if we look at this, and a king of the masquerade who will be put to death after 3 days of festivities. Although this is only a game, the meaning of the figure reflects ancient symbolism. Each time this card appears, It presages an abrupt and unexpected change and even a disastrous end. Although the Magus is the lowest of all the cards, his influence is not easily outweighed. So here you go. Here's our beautiful magician, our creative spark, the eye, the will to create, the creative force. And from this traditional point of view, it's just a charmer and someone who is going to be put to death. So he can charm as much as he can, but you should be aware that it's all illusion. So it's really interesting, I thought, how the magician is has this really bad rap. And then we start with this Triumph of Love. So in Triumph of Love, what we have in general, how it's written in the little white book, the numbers of the cards were different, but the deck numbers the majors according to other Tarot de Marseille styles. So they ordered how we know it, but in the little white book they give us the sequence of how traditionally they were ordered before the 15th century. So the Empress was the second card, and here she starts the Triumph of Love. And in the Triumph of Love, the cards that come is the Empress, the Emperor, the High Priestess or the Popess, and here in this deck, this is the Spanish Captain, Bacchus, which stands for the Pope, Temperance, Lovers, Chariot, and Strength. And these cards, seen from the divinationary perspective, are mostly seen positive. So if you get cards from Triumph of Love in your spreads, you most often are blessed with positive energy. In the little white book, they show and describe the cards in quite a cool way. So they also kind of manage to see both sides of the cards, and this is how I like to read tarot. So for example, they say Empress is the first card of the Triumph of Love. She signifies everything life offers for success and a promising future. Since this is a female figure, the benefits of life that she symbolizes are stamped with feminine characteristics. Therefore, you need to use tact rather than strategy, submission rather than domination, and gentleness rather than force. So here we have this kind of more feminine, receptive archetype. As females, we often kind of cringe a little bit just because feminine doesn't mean submissive, or doesn't mean that we have to be tactful and not strategic, But I think traditionally that's how it was seen. So the Empress predicts enormous possibilities that you can realize only through your own efforts. So I like that even here in this little white book, they actually put the responsibility on you, because it's worth noting that this is tarot cards, right? These are archetypal energies. These are pictures. And what you do with your life, it's really up to you. This is a tool to help you to expand on your knowledge, to expand on your understanding, to make you realize where your power or weak spots are, and how you can maybe navigate through your life with the help of this amazing predictive tool. But it's still up to you. The work has to be put in by you. So when this card is favorably placed, and this is also interesting, they mention quite a lot that each card changes the meaning depending on the neighbors. So if you have Empress, which is a very beautiful card from the Triumph of Love, but it's surrounded by, let's say, many cards from the Triumph of Death, the positivity of this card is weakened drastically. So if it's placed favorably, its influence is particularly strong. But if it's surrounded by unfavorable cards, its influence is weakened. So I'm not going to read up about every card, but as I said, these cards are very positive cards, in this regards that they also surrounded by positive cards, or that you can use their meanings in a positive way. So shall we maybe take a look at Bacchus, because it's such an original figure and we don't see the Pope or the Hierophant depicted so freely, so joyously, so frivolously even. Usually Pope evokes this kind of serious stand and, religion and so on. So here in the Triumphs, we find the figure of the Pope. In this place, the Swiss card makers use Jupiter, and the Flemish star of the Pope appears as Bacchus, god of wine, fertility, and revelry. Bacchus is a favorable card. It promises success, rewards, and peace. All these benefits are assured and you can enjoy them fully, but you also run the risk of weakening your own efforts. When surrounded by unfavorable cards, it's precisely your weaknesses in the struggle of life that are brought out by Bacchus, since it's very possible that you will want to enjoy these blessings, which Bacchus gives, without having earned them. So you might, be too frivolous, you might drink your good luck away, or you might not put in any work. And that comes with that kind of Jupiterian flow of life. And so Temperance, it's also about submission, concession, watering down your wine. I want to read out maybe one last card from the Triumph of Love. Let's look at Temperance, because it's such a different depiction. It still has two vases, but it also holds a staff. And as I said, it's about watering down your own wine. But for all that, it's a figure from the Triumph of Love, and this is favorable to you. So, you didn't have to use cards reversed. You had just good cards, bad cards, and eternal cards. Do not take great risks, nor give way to impatience or indolence. Be grateful to this card. It not only moderates your impulses, it also weakens the adversity that threatens you. So the Triumph of Love, it works in our favor. But then we move to the Triumph of Death. In Triumph of Death, we have, interestingly, it starts with the Wheel of Fortune. So very often in some tarot books, Wheel of Fortune, because it's connected to Jupiter, is seen as something really favorable. I think in the more to-depth tarot books, we know that Wheel of Fortune just means change, and that your fates are changing and they will be changing constantly, and that everything is in a state of perpetual motion. So the closer to the center of the happenings you are, the less affected you will be by the falling and rising of the wheel. Here it says that this is the first card of the Triumph of Death. 3 or sometimes 4 figures appear around the wheel. One figure climbs up towards the good fortune, the middle figure enjoys temporary success, but the third figure rapidly falls into adversity. It's clear from the meaning of this card that all promises received and all achievements inside contain the element of uncertainty. You are standing before a crossroads where good luck can turn to bad luck, and vice versa. This is a very important card. Pay great attention to the cards surrounding it. And I think if you read cards for people, you know that very often when the Wheel of Fortune comes out, tarot readers tend to pull another card just to see if the fortune goes up or down or stays, kind of constant for a while. So then Hermit is also seen as a card that it's quite, prominent in the Triumph of Death. So this is the old man, and he clearly symbolizes time. He has the Book of Eternity, the aged face of passing time, and the staff of old age. Time passes through your life without regard to your desires or actions. Your aspirations are merely phantoms, and time grinds them to powder, leaving only ashes and memories. You should recognize this unfavorable card as a powerful force in the Triumph of Death. Your efforts will be for naught, your achievements destroyed. Time is not, however, the supreme authority. If there are favorable cards nearby, the negative influences of time are weakened. So also quite a negative card. And we tend to see Hermit connected to Virgo as a fertile card, right? As a card that denotes or depicts someone who has gathered a lot of experience. And probably you could add this here too, because with time you learn hopefully. Maybe not always. But it's interesting. I found it interesting reading those little descriptions. And another card that it's the bad card with bad juju is the Hangman. The next one obviously is death itself, which just, it's shown mowing down the living with its scythe. The card means that everything you have so far accumulated with this will be scythed. You are in great danger of losing all you possess, including riches, someone close to you, and on the spiritual level, your peace of mind and inner tranquility. On the other hand, death can also represent starting from scratch or a temporary but beneficial trial. Job, who lost everything, subsequently recovered riches and honor. Much depends on the surrounding cards, but the fact remains that this adversity, even if temporary, can hardly be avoided. So, that's how it goes with tarot. Sometimes we don't want to really see those negative cards that can also, of course, turn into positive events in our lives. But in traditional decks, this is bad and that's it. Maybe good cards can weaken the adversity, but here you go. Don't count for anything good. So I think, tradition is lovely to keep in mind. I think it's great for divinationary meaning, but I also believe that tarot evolves with our consciousness and how we see things, how our lives changed. We don't live in 15th century anymore. Things aren't always so black and white. We have psychology. We developed a lot of different approaches to life. So it's worth to keep in mind, not to get too, narrow in your understanding, but also it's really lovely to investigate how tarot evolves and keep in mind that if you do divination, maybe it's good to have approach like this. So then we have the devil, and this is a monster among monsters, all the eyes everywhere. He advances inexorably, spitting flame and crushing you with all sorts of disasters. In the Triumph of Death, he's the second strongest card, the strongest one being the Tower. And it looks really different. So it's this traditional lightning hitting the tree and the scared horde keeper. So unlike Death, the devil does more than just destroy. He's even stronger than Death, and rightly, since he's more dangerous. The devil corrupts everything. Even if the cards surrounding him predict success and happiness, the devil arrives to spoil everything unless he's dominated by even stronger cards. So it's quite a powerful card. And then the lightning of the Tower is the strongest card in the Triumph of Death. Signifies the tribulations of hell, the fire from the heavens striking the Garden of Eden, or the lightning that strikes a tower. All these are allegorical symbols. Allegorical symbols depict destructive fire. Everything you have achieved can suddenly be reduced to ashes. If lightning is dominated by sufficient positive surrounding cards, a fresh start, new truth may arise from the ashes. So that's what we also say with the Tower card, that the foundation can remain and can be rebuilt. We also say about the regular Tower card that this symbolizes the limitations or limits and our kind of ego stuff that we build up around ourselves, and when the lightning hits, they get destroyed, so we can see clearer and we can expand our version of ourselves. So this Tower in this particular little white book is the strongest negative from the negative cards, and thus we finish the Triumph of Death and we move towards the Triumph of Eternity, which starts with the Star. And the Star, like in Jacques Veville tarot, shows the astronomer, and we know that here he holds the measuring tool in his hand and he looks up to the stars, and we know it's about cycles, it's about astronomy, it's about knowing the movements of heavenly bodies and living in accordance with this one. So together with the moon, the sun, justice and judgment, they belong to this Triumph of Eternity, and the Star depicts an astronomer who is taking astrological measurements of the stars that shine overhead. For you, this means that nothing achieved so far is final. whatever the disposition of the cards that follow will determine the direction you are going to take. If the star is the last card to appear, then the result of this consultation will be unclear or undecided. So this is also interesting. This is like a little bit like Wheel of Fortune. Well, we don't know which way to go. And sometimes with the star, because it's so connected to the timing of things and heavenly bodies, sometimes it's outside of our control. So we might just wait for the right timing with this one. And then we have the moon, which here is lovely because it shows that amazing weaver and the full moon sitting under the tree. A woman and the moon look at each other as if in mutual challenge. If you aim high enough, you will succeed, provided you persist. That this staff signifies that even if you are confronted with daily difficulties, you must continue to hope and to maintain your purpose. The tree symbolizes the ideal solution you seek in pursuing your purpose, but it leads nowhere. If this card is surrounded by other positive or promising cards, it will strengthen their effects and will promise you good results. If there are less positive or even negative cards nearby, it counsels you to continue on the same path of perseverance. Happiness and elevation await you, provided you persist in your endeavors. So it's interesting that in Rider-Waite-Smith past tarot, the moon has quite a bad rap, whereas here, La Luna, it's maybe not the most positive, but it's about persistence, perseverance, and kind of sets you on the right path. So it's quite interesting. Then we have the sun, which here doesn't show the baby on the horse, but it shows a man on the horse. But maybe that was, these types of decks were influenced by, that Pamela Coleman Smith was influenced, or Arthur White. They were influenced by this particular image. So naturally, this is one of the most favorable cards. When surrounded by other positive cards, it ensures good luck, success. Even if the sun is surrounded by unfavorable cards, it always contains a hope of victory. In this case, success often depends on external circumstances. When opportunity arises, take advantage of it. So this one is a very strong positive card. And then we have Judgment, also called the Angel. And what does it mean? What does this card mean for you? Asks the little white book. It means that the time of judgment will come. An examination of the virtuousness of your strivings and your enterprises is imminent. Whatever you have done, there is a higher power that will pass judgment on you, and you will have to account for yourself. So doesn't say so much if it's positive or negative, but anything you do is kind of woven into the universal net, like a web of energetic doings, and it will be judged at some point. And then we have the universe, so this like a victory card, right, standing on top of the world. And then we have the Fool, which is numbered here 22, and also, which is interesting, the Justice card. And justice, with this card, you know that you will not suffer from injustice. So it's very positive. You will not have to fight against blind destiny. In life, you will be treated fairly, and the success of your endeavors will depend entirely on yourself. So that completes our 22 major arcana, divided in 3 groups of triumphs. And that completes the today's talk and introduction to this interesting way of seeing major arcana from the Vandenborre Flemish Tarot little white book. I'm just going to check if there is doesn't say who wrote the little white book, but in any way, if you manage to get this deck, or if you like it, I think it's beautiful. And US game system, yeah, it's published really beautiful. It's published kind of Ilmenegala style. I really like it. It's beautiful. So thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't too long and too boring, but I found it quite interesting. So I hope at least some of you will do too. See you later. Bye.